Now welcome to another one of my videos. Today's video is me in Brussels for the entire weekend. How did I get there? Well, 2 hours 10 minutes from St Pancras Station, London. That's quicker than the Northern Line on a good day. No Ryanair bag size roulette for myself, no getting publicly shamed because my bag is 2 inches too big. Just a decent coffee, a croissant, and the Kent countryside sliding past the window. Now I've lost count on how many times I've done this journey. Must be pushing 20 visits, and yet every single time I step off this train, Brussels still finds a way to surprise me. A new bar in a cellar I've never noticed, a street I swear I wasn't there last year, or just the light hitting the Grand Palace in a way that makes me stop like a proper tourist and just say wow all over again. The city's become a bit of a friend over the years. I keep coming back to this familiar place as it feels like a place my ancestors may have called home, but it's alien enough to me to keep me on my toes. So join me as we explore Brussels, and maybe it will inspire you to visit this forever changing city. If you are getting the train to Brussels, you most likely will arrive at Brussels Midi. This is a station where half of Europe rocks up, and within 30 seconds of leaving the train, you're going to get hit by multiple languages coming at you left, right and centre. Be it French, Dutch, German, Somalian, you name it, they're all here in this station. And yes, the place does have beggars and degenerates, so be wary as you're coming out the station. But walk just 10 minutes and you will find yourself right slap bang in the middle of Brussels. Hey, welcome to another one of my videos. I'm in very, very diverse Brussels. What do I mean by diverse? Well, we've got modernism and we've got the old. We have everything from new buildings to old buildings being knocked down. Old buildings over here. The facades of these old buildings trying to be preserved. Beautiful Theatre Royal over here. And then the garish modernism that is not very inspiring.
It's a widely held belief that within the architecture of the great cities are coded references to the system.
One thing I love about Brussels is it's a unique place. It's a place of amazing beer. There, cheers. This place with waffles. Obviously, when we're in Belgium, you have to have Belgian waffles. My favourite dessert to ever eat, but you were in Rome. It was the Roman period, so hence when we're in Belgium, we have Belgian waffles. So what have I got here? I've got strawberries, fillets, as they say, with white chocolate. Would I die for this? No. Do I like it? I do like it. Is it worth 10 euros? We're only here once. Until we're here next time, of course. It is quite tasty. Thankfully, I've got 2 sporks. I'm going to share it with the person holding the camera. Because I can't eat all of this. It's a heart attack in a cardboard box. Bon appetit. It's a unique city, but it's a city with problems. There's more than 10,000 people homeless on the streets of Brussels. 10,000. But as tourists, we're not supposed to see it, but it's obvious everywhere you go. This is the home to the European Union, at least 3 out of 4 weeks of the month when it's not in Strasbourg. Let's explore this great city. I will be the first one to say Brussels has serious problems. I could easily make a video where I just walk around the parks and show the numerous homeless people from the third world basically behaving incredibly badly. But those videos have been done. This is me wanting to show you just some of the sights I see in Brussels. However, I will be going to Molenbeek, a place on the edge of Brussels where some of the most notorious of Jihadi terrorists have spawned from over the years. So this is not all chocolates, beer and beautiful buildings. This is a raw, uncensored look at Brussels. So join me on this incredible journey of this magnificent city. But first, a little bit of beauty. It's probably quite obvious what time of year I'm filming this. This is the run-up to Christmas in Belgium. And this, we have the drug opera. No drugs at the opera for this one. This is a restaurant. It's quite a remarkable restaurant. It's gone overboard with the decorating, and this is a theme. Every single year they do this, and I have to admire them for what they do. I have to say I like it.
Alors, ouais, à votre aise. Il va vous donner une. C'est bon, à juger. C'est bien. Ze blijven tegenkomen overal.
I'm not much of a shopper. I really, in a way, detest shopping, and there's nothing worse, I think, than basically spending time in a mall. But I have to say, when you walk into a place like the Royal Gallery here in Brussels, it feels different. I found myself very briefly this morning in a mall, and I just felt, it was weird. It just felt like my brain was going numb, and I wasn't able to concentrate, and I had to get out of there as quick as I could get in there. But when I find myself walking through an impressive place like this, it's all very different, even though I'm not really going to ever buy anything in here. What need would I have for an expensive pair of earrings or jewellery? It's not really my cup of tea. But we have everything in here that you possibly need. We've got cinema, art cinema really nice cinema. Really, really beautiful place. The Victorians did things better, didn't they? This is 1857, I think. You think it's chocolate everywhere you go in Brussels, but no, it's soap. Even soap is fancy in Brussels. It's a bit of a chic place. If you can ignore their portions of cheese or their queuing for frites with mayonnaise, they certainly do like to shop, and they do like to spend money on the good stuff. But then again, you find that in every single country in the world. It's just mass consumerism. But look at how beautiful it is down here. You see that? It's beautiful. No getting wet in this old shopping mall, and it's really a magnificent shopping mall, but consumerism at its finest. I'm just walking up this gentle hill, and I'm kind of reminded when I walk past a building like this with degenerate flags on top of them, that what have we done in the modern world to make things aesthetically beautiful? We're walking towards a cathedral that was originally started in the 13th century and then was completed by the 16th century, but obviously this being a cathedral and this being a place that's experienced 2 world wars has had some changes over the years. But on what timeline do you think it's acceptable to build something like this next to a beautiful 13th to 16th century cathedral? You can't really get over the mentality of town planners or architects of the modern world. Okay, I appreciate this building is probably built in the last 20 to 30 years, but when we compare it to this St. Michael's gilded cathedral over here, which one do you prefer? I know which one I prefer. Let's go and have a look at it. Right next to this cathedral that we're about to visit, the Banque National of Belgium, so basically the Belgium central bank. Remember who controls the central banks of the world. How dispiriting must it be to have this modernist monstrosity next to this beautiful cathedral. It was planned, they knew what they were doing. They that control the world. I wouldn't normally dwell on what was next to a big cathedral or church, but I think it is relevant. The National Bank of Belgium literally welded onto the cathedral's flank like a parasite on a saint. You've got to realise who has control of this, because while on paper it states that the Belgian state owns 50% of it, the other half is still in private hands, traded on Euronext like a casino stock, dispersed amongst shadowy investors who pull strings without ballots in sight. No single shark owns the Belgium central bank, just like all of the central banks around the world. But that's the genius of it. It's a web of faceless entities, hedge funds and old money dynasties holding the leash. And this isn't some Belgian quirk. If you zoom out onto the world stage, most central banks, the Fed, the ECB, People's Bank of China, they wave the flag of public ownership like a smokescreen. If you dig deeper, the ownership of central banks around the world is a freak show, and it really needs to be called out. But if you call it out, that's when problems start happening, and you have to ask yourself why. The US Federal Reserve, for example, is a private cartel of regional banks masquerading as a federal, owned by member banks who get dividends paying trillions out of thin air. The Bank of Japan, private shareholders lurking in the background. Switzerland, the same game. Even the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, the central bank of central banks, is owned by 63 elite clubs representing 95% of global GDP. Immune to laws, completely untouchable. These families have bankrolled the empires that built this system. Private hands birthed central banking in the 17th century. The Bank of England, 1694, shareholders feasting on war debt while kings begged. By World War II, most got nationalised on paper, but the control still flows through the vaults where the real power huddles. These banker overlords, they don't just own the money, they own the rules, and they've always seen themselves as above the church, the peasants, the lot. Back in the Middle Ages, the Vatican thundered against usury. They called it theft of the poor, banning interest as a one-way ticket to hell. But the moneylenders, they laughed, hid behind exchange fees. By the Renaissance, the church caved, needed loans for its war loans, so usury got the wink. Fast forward to the Protestant Reformation, this shred Rome's grip, and boom, bankers rise as the new high priest, dictating stability while enslaving nations in debt cycles. Today, they park their fortress next to St. Michael's, the patron of justice, slayer of dragons. It's a middle finger to the heavens. It's almost like they're stating, we weigh economies, not souls, they smirk. And we're foreclosed on both. Coincidence or an ultimate power flex? Money as the new gospel, central banks as the cathedrals of greed. Every place I visit, I always ask people the same question. Did you see the cathedral? And I'm always gobsmacked. I'm so dismayed some of the time how many will say I'm all churched out. I've seen one spire, I've seen them all. I'm totally gobsmacked by that, but it also enrages me a little bit. Because by missing these places, you effectively bypass the beating heart of the city, these stone behemoths etched with real wars. Faith versus the fistful of shekels. They're not dusty museums, they're battle scars from when the world tried to chain the bankers and failed. Walk past them and you're sleepwalking into their trap. So there's National Bank extension next door. That got bolted on after the Second World War, exactly when Europe is being rebuilt on massive American loans and the Marshall Plan of debt. Debt that, of course, the banking system was more than happy to supply. But the cathedral itself, the Cathedral of St. Michael and St. Gudula, has been here a lot longer, and it's worth knowing why it carries that double name. St. Michael is the archangel who defeats Satan in the book of Revelations. He's the one with the sword and the scales that weigh souls on Judgment Day. The official patron of saints of Brussels, and also rather convenient for some, the patron saint of police, soldiers, and in certain medieval traditions, even of bankers and merchants when they want divine cover for their interest rates. St. Gudula was a 7th century noblewoman from Brabant. She used to walk to church before dawn carrying hot coals in her apron to light the candles, and strangely the coals never burnt her. Basically the original light in the darkness miracle. She gets added to the dedication in the 11th century when her relics are moved here. The timeline of the building itself, the 9th century there's a small Carolingian chapel on the hill. At the 11th century it's the first Romanesque church, and by 1226 they start the Gothic choir. That's real classic 13th century power statement. The North Tower is finished by 1454 and the South Tower by 1485, right on the eve of the Spanish Habsburgs taking over. The famous judgment window in the north transepts dates to 1528 and literally shows St. Michael weighing souls while devils try to rig the scales. Symbolism that's hard to ignore when the central bank is now parked next door. And then in 1946, 1 year after the war ended, the Belgian royal family donated a huge new stained glass window showing the Virgin Mary protecting the nation. The window gets installed literally months before the National Bank's new wing is completed. Down in the crypt, you've still got 9th century foundations. And there used to be a documented underground passage linking the cathedral to the old Kudenberg Palace. They stopped public access years ago, officially for structural reasons. This really is an ancient Christian powerhouse dedicated to the angel who judges the world, sitting cheek by jowl with the modern powerhouses that judge your credit rating. Make of that what you will. So if you really are churched out, wake up. These aren't relics, they're manifestos against the machine next door, ley lines of resistance where spirits squared up to silver and held the line. Barely though. But then the bank at the cathedral touching God's house is a checkmate in plain sight. They own the board, the peace is your future. Well, a truly mesmerising cathedral in there. Had to obviously take my hat off as I went inside, but a really beautiful choir were playing from England because they were doing the sermon in English, chap with an English accent. But wonderful, wonderful cathedral, and you can see a lot of workmanship has gone in there. I think every time you probably visit that place, and the wonderful thing is it's free, you'll notice something different every single time. I miss so much from just that small little take on that cathedral, but hopefully when you visit you're going to see so much more or experience so much more. There we go. I think the cathedral was happy with my work and I'm happy to have been here. Let's move onwards to the next destination. The building behind me sums up Brussels magnificently. The detail of the past is overwhelming in the fact that look at the balconies, look at the statues that you can be found on this building that's just directly opposite the cathedral. And then right opposite it, this ghastly brand new building. What planet does the architect think that is superior to that? It's a real shame. And you see this all over Brussels with the cranes going up in the distance over here. You see these cranes so they can build more ghastly monstrosities that nobody's going to ever pay any attention to in 100 years. They will be knocked down and replaced because that is the world we live in. The world of the consumer, the world of the investors who will build, rent it out, knock it down later and repeat. Nothing will last of this current era. That's why do we want it to last? So just walking through Parc Brussels, or the Brussels Park, right in front of the Brussels Palace. We head in this direction. But right now I'm walking on what looks like the compass. And when we see a compass on a map, we see it in Washington, D.C., Potsdam, we see it all over the world. That's the symbol of the Freemasons. Now, Barnaby Gounod, he was the architect of this park, probably was linked to various Freemasons. And in the 18th century, when this was built, Freemasons pretty much ruled the Western world, and what better place to put your mark than the centre of the city, next to the Royal Palace in the Royal Quarter of Brussels. So it kind of makes sense that he would stamp the mark of the Freemasons. But the symbology is everywhere. It wouldn't surprise me, and I haven't been to this park in many years, so I'm slightly at a loss if it's true. It wouldn't surprise me if we found an obelisk in this park. But if we do, I'll point it out. If we don't, maybe I'll walk past it without noticing. The internet could say these kids are Masonic or worse. The truth is they're just 240-year-old billboard ads for shopping and shipping. A Habsburg logo on the base, zero occult in theory. 100% just simply please invest in Brussels. The real symbolism to be found is in the park's layout, not the statues. At least that's what I think. So just standing in the middle of the compass, I wanted to give you an idea of what we're surrounded by. Right behind me, we have the Belgian Parliament. This is their home of democracy. This is their parliament. This is where people believe that they have some say in what goes on in the country of Belgium. But right in front of me, so we're just going to turn it here without making you too dizzy, is the Royal Palace. So this is where the monarchy lives. And similar to the United Kingdom, they have a king, they have a queen, they have a monarchy. The parliament passes the laws that then get signed off by the king or the queen, whoever's in charge at the time. But what's interesting as we find ourselves with the Parliament right behind us. To my left over here we have, I don't know if you can see it, we have the American Embassy. So literally the left side of the compass, and it is the left side on the map with the Royal Palace at your foot, left side of the map you have the American Embassy. And then we have the Cathedral to our right. So not only do we have the New World, they have the Cathedral to the right, they have the Cathedral and the American Embassy to the left. It is very symbolic, and I want to show you this on the map. Look at this. You see that? I don't know if you can see that. It's quite impressive. Obviously, if you visit this park in the summer, it's a very different kettle of fish. People would be sunbathing around here, people having picnics, kids playing, you name it. People playing some games maybe. Sometimes I think possibly boule happens here, similar to in France. But in the winter, it's chilly. It's been snowing in large parts of Europe. I haven't had snow here, at least while I've been here, but it's really quite chilly. About 2 degrees Celsius right now, just over 0. And as you can see, the fountain has been switched off simply because it's just too cold and it's winter and not many people will be visiting the park. But it is a beautiful park nonetheless. Statues everywhere of important figures, each one having a story, but now each one just a statue just fading away into the past. And here we find ourselves at the Royal Palace, and right outside the Royal Palace we have a little beer tour. Obviously Belgium and Brussels in particular being a magnificent place to sample beer. But these guys are going to be pedaling their way around the city. It's a really great way to see the city. If you're interested in ways to tour the city, check out my blog, thewanderingenglishman.com, and you'll see a tour just like that on the blog, maybe with a group of friends. It's worth trying. Way to have some beers and get some exercise at the same time. I recommend doing it on a warmer day than on today, but I guess it's a nice way to keep warm while seeing the sights. These guys have just checked out the Masonic symbology of the Royal Park, but they also checked out the Royal Palace. I'm sure their tour guide's going to take them somewhere as equally as fascinating, but don't worry, I'm going to also be taking them along these places. Just around the corner from the Royal Palace, tourist information place, we have the beautiful Catholic church just here. To be honest, it looks like a government building, but it's actually a Catholic church. Court of Flanders a little bit further on, another thing linked to the royal family. Magritte Museum, lots of museums, basically kind of like the museum quarter around here. There's museums over here, museum. If you want to fill your boots on museums, this is the place to be. Although the average museum is going to cost you between 10 and 20 euros, depending on which museum you go into. Right behind me, it may say Old England, just up here, Old England, and it's not referring to myself. This is the Museum of Musical Instruments. Wherever your time you're into musical instruments.
Good times for a change. See, the look I've had can make a good man turn bad.
Now obviously it's impossible to see everything when you're in Brussels, but it is always advisable to pick at least one museum. Now unlike in London, where the cathedrals you have to pay for, they're free in Brussels, so take true advantage of that, the churches, the cathedrals, but you do have to pay for the museums. For example, this one, Magritte, and the fine arts, and the great Dutch artists, you can get in for 15 euros right now. On a cold day like today, why not? Let's see what this beautiful, unique museum has to offer, shall we?
Good times for a change. See, the look I've had can make a good man turn bad. So please, 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 let me get what I want this time. Haven't had a dream in a long time. See, the life I've had can make a good man bad. So for once in my life, let me get what I want. Lord knows it would be the first time. Lord knows it would be the first time.
Contemporary wing that featured Magritte had gorgeous lighting, perfect framing, and yet it felt dead. That is exactly why I needed to play the Smiths. Please, please, please let me get what I want. Because it was the only way, in my opinion, to make the modern art have any substance. It was the only way to really have that modern art feel substantial. As I felt most of the art we just saw was just expensive wallpaper. Clever, sure. Pretty, some of it. Alive, almost never. The music wasn't just an edit choice, it was a rescue mission in my opinion. However, as I walked out of the gift shop, up one flight of stairs and stepped back into the old masters, I didn't need headphones, I didn't need a safety net. There was no safety net, I didn't need one. Bruegel hits you like a brick, Rubens makes flesh look wet. One Van Dyck stare and you feel judged by history itself. 400-year-old paint that still knocks the wind out of you. No concept, no caption, no curated melancholy required. Just pure, unfiltered greatness that makes 99% of what's made today look like timid, over-explained jokes. I'm too old to pretend anymore, although in frankness I never did. In my opinion, most modern and contemporary art bores me to tears. For some, it's flawless. For others, it's intellectually bulletproof. But I walk through those white and black rooms nodding like a good little tourist, but inside I'm screaming, is this really it? Then I walk 10 meters into the old masters, which we're seeing right here, and I'm on my knees. These paintings don't need a beautiful soundtrack or a melancholy playlist to make you feel something. They do it naked. They do it in silence. They have done it for centuries after the artists have died. And they win every single time. So I'm left standing here with no music in my ears, staring at some of the greatest 17th century canvas and asking only the question that still matters. Why does paint that was mixed before electricity was invented still crush us, while the stuff mixed last week barely leaves a bruise? I don't have a polite answer. I just know the old masters win, and everything else is still trying to catch up. For this art is far more superior, if you can really rank art. At least to me, that's what I think. Well, just exiting the museum now, I wasn't really allowed to film in there. However, I think there's a reason for that. They don't want you filming the Magritte collection, simple reason being, it's not that good. But obviously, my opinion isn't the same as another person's opinion. Another person's magnificent art is another person's meh. I, on the other hand, a fan of other artists, and that is what's great about the Dutch masters. Some of the work there was phenomenal, and that is where you should probably spend the majority of your time. You don't have to get the Magritte ticket, you can just get the Dutch masters, which is highly worth your time. Let's go have a beer. So we come out of the Museum of Art, and now we are on our way to find some mussels and frites. It's time to eat, it's time to drink beer, it's time to be merry. The disadvantages of obviously touring European cities during the winter months, obviously it gets dark kind of early, but it is a beautiful city in Brussels. Anyone that tells you otherwise just doesn't know what they're talking about, because behind every corner you'll see something magnificent. Look right behind me over here. Ukrainian flag sideways, but look at this garden over here. Magnificent statues. And then obviously right behind me this magnificent church, which we're not going to go in right now because I'm way too thirsty, but it can be appreciated. Definitely can be appreciated. It might not even be open, but it is magnificent. Oh, it is. Of course it's open. Should we go in? those huge doors and closing them behind me, the city noise just vanishes. This is Notre Dame des Victoires au Sablon. It began in 1304 as a simple chapel built by the Crossbowmen's Guild. These were the men who guarded medieval Brussels with longbows. Then, in 1348, legend says a little wooden statue of the Virgin Mary arrived in Antwerp. She was loaded onto a boat by a woman named Beatrice Soetkens and miraculously floated up the canal all the way to Brussels on its own, refusing to stop anywhere else. The crossbowmen took that as a direct order from heaven. They grabbed the statue, installed it in their chapel, and word spread that she granted victories against enemies and plagues. The donations flooded in, the chapel kept getting bigger, and by the 15th and 16th centuries it had become this soaring Gothic masterpiece that we're walking through right now. This place is a Brabantian Gothic masterpiece. White stone, impossibly thin pillars, vaulting that climbs 25 meters but feels twice that because there's almost nothing holding it up. As we walk down the central aisle, past the 11 Baroque side chapels paid for by every guild in town, bakers, brewers, tailors, the lot. This is the pulpit. It was built in 1699, carved from a single block of oak by a guy called Hendrik Frans Verbruggen. Absolutely beautiful. Samson's holding up the whole structure on his shoulders, the lions ripping at his legs. Those who give sermons, I imagine thunder from it. Every curl, every grimace, every muscle is so alive it feels like the wood is still growing. And that organ, it was built in 1886 from 3,500 pipes, built by the Merck & Schultz firm. When they open it up on Sundays, the whole building shakes. If you attend a service here, you can feel the bass in your ribs before you even hear the melody. 800 years of stone, and it trembles when someone plays either Bach or the Interstellar soundtrack. I love as we look up, those vaulted ribs form perfect 8-pointed stars, pure geometry. No decoration is needed here other than what it is. The altar that we see here was carved in 1657. Depicts a riot of gilded vines and biblical scenes, Adam and Eve in the garden, the fall, the redemption, all twisting up towards the crucifixion, like the whole story of humanity is being retold in wood and gold, flanked by those towering candelabras and the green glow from the stained glass. It's like standing inside a medieval manuscript that's come to life. And somewhere inside this church, tucked away in one of those side chapels, is the original 1348 statue, the tiny wooden virgin that started it all. Stolen twice and miraculously returned both times. She's not here on the altar, but her presence is everywhere. In the light, in the silence, and in the way this place has outlasted plagues, wars, and revolutions. Standing inside this beautiful church honestly humbled me. Outside, people are arguing about politics, bike lanes, carbon taxes, mass immigration, but the argument in here ended centuries ago. The stone won, the light won, the silence won. For the brief moments of time that I stand inside this church, I'm not a tourist or a traveller or even a YouTuber. I'm not even English. I'm just another man who walked in from the noise to contemplate the meaning of it all. And this whole place is one of those great churches. And it's humbling to think that this place was built before anyone imagined the current modern world that we live in today. This is why we travel. I haven't quite made it to the beer place yet. I keep getting distracted. There's all these distractions en route. Right now I find myself in what you would define as an antiques market, but I tell you, the antiques in Brussels, there were some very expensive, very nice antiques. Over there we had lots of silver plates, silver cutlery. Here we've got jewellery, more silver over here, candlesticks. Very, very beautiful. Bonjour.
texture like sun lays me down. With my mind she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown with golden brown. Every time, just like the last, on her ship, tied to the mast, to distant lands, takes both my hands, never a frown with golden brown. Temptress, through the ages she's heading west. From far away, stays for a day, never a frown with golden brown.
You know you're in Belgium or Brussels when you got a wall of chocolate. God knows how often that chocolate's changed, but this whole place smells of chocolate. It's quite incredible. All of these shops are really, really incredible. Every single shop, look at this. Chocolate-filled donuts. That's incredible. I'm not too much of a chocolate fiend, but one thing you should try, if you get a chance, have the hot chocolates. See this hot chocolate here? It's good. It's really good. There's chocolate shops everywhere. Just chocolate, more chocolate, and would you like some more chocolate, sir? Okay, I might have some. The Belgians aren't the most sophisticated when it comes to their food. Their food is waffles and French fries. The queue that you see back here are basically Belgians and tourists and people from all over the world queuing for frites with massive dollops of mayonnaise. Now I have to say I'm a big fan of frites with mayonnaise. Literary Tabora, it's a very popular place in the centre of Brussels, but you can see the size of the queue. Nothing better than a bit of mayonnaise stuck onto a frit. Maybe the English are just incredibly poor these days, but this is €11.80. €11.80 for a pint of beer. Las Canitas. Las Canitas, is that how you say it? But it's expensive. Couldn't help myself. I went back to this amazing shopping centre and got myself a 70% hot chocolate from the Belgian chocolate factory. And you can go in there, they let you sample things, and this for €5. You know, you gotta splash out sometimes. Magnifique. Maybe I'm less harsh on Belgium because I have a bit of a history with Belgium. My great grandmother was from Belgium, and I used to spend a bit of time in Belgium as a kid because I'd visit my grandparents who were based in Belgium. And one thing we had a lot of when I was in Belgium was pepper cake. Now it used to come in big loaves, but I've gone into this very fancy chocolate shop and bought myself the Delicacy du Roi pepper cake, €5 for this tiny little thing. Thankfully it's already sliced. There we go. I want to show you. You're thinking, what the hell is this? It's like, you have no idea how good this tastes. That is a flashback. There's a flashback to being 5 years old. And your grandparents turn up with pepper cake. They know you love it. But that's really good. The one they obviously brought to me was, I think, from the supermarket. This is the fancy stuff. This is really good though. This is turning into a bit of a foodie video, really. Regular viewers will know I'm not really a food vlogger, but I couldn't resist. I went into this place, Artisan, and I got myself some speculas. Have you ever had speculas before? Well, it's really good. They're biscuits from Belgium. I have to say, I was a little bit spoiled as a kid. I had speculas, I had caramel wafers, waffles, or whatever they were. I had the pepper cake. Now I get to relive my childhood again. I'm not going to open these up on camera because I actually want to take these back for Christmas festivities. I'm salivating at just the thought of eating these things. They're magnificent. Come to Belgium, try speculas if you haven't had it before. Obviously, sometimes the weather sucks. Like right now, the weather really sucks. However, it doesn't stop this place from being super busy. Some of the side streets in Brussels are super busy. Have a look at this. Look at those people. People everywhere. All nighttime revelers out for business. Where are they going? Who really knows? What are they up to? Who really knows? But it's a busy, busy time, and it's well, Saturday night. What would you expect? Let's go and enjoy the festivities. The style in this bar is to basically spend 30 euros and you'll get like a flight of beers, 10 euros in total. Not a bad way to spend the evening, and you've got a choice of all these beers up here. If you have a look up here, you'll see all these beers. And here we find ourselves at the Jihadi piss. This little object is supposed to be a girl swatting to take a piss. And I have to say, compared to the male counterpart, which has style, grace, and history, this one was erected in 1987. And I think it's a bit crude and crass. It's supposed to be all about gender equality, but in reality it fails dismally. This is just a cheap substitute meant to attract the tourists in a cheap sort of gimmicky way, a little bit like the British Kiss Me Quick type hats. Come on Brussels, you can do better than this. Now fun fact, the little boy peeing on the corner over there, that's the mannequin piss. It's only famous because the city needed a mascot that was literally the only statue left standing after the 1695 bombardment. Belgium turned a war survivor into a chocolate-selling, piss-taking legend. That's the energy I'm here for. This is the Grand Palace. I know I don't care how many Instagram accounts you follow, nothing prepares you for this square. It's like someone dropped Venice into Belgium and it gave it a steampunk makeover. This is one of the most beautiful central squares in all of Europe, and I think it's criminal that it's not spoken of more frequently. Bruges Zot. The height of sophistication. It's like we've stepped back to 1982 and we have square blocks of cheese on a cocktail stick. Doesn't get better than that. Oh yeah. Add a bit of pepper. Look at this, they added pepper to the cheese. Doesn't get better than that. So there was an object built for the live exhibition in Belgium, Brussels, back in 1958, and I'm going to go visit it. It's called the Atomium. The problem is you'd expect a major tourist attraction like this to be really easy to get to. I'm currently in the sort of north side of the city centre, and it's going to take me 45 minutes on public transport to get there, or 15 minutes in an Uber, so obviously Uber is the way to go. It's just a shame that there isn't a direct route that doesn't sort of go all the way around the city to get there, but you know, c'est la vie, what are you going to do?
I've just arrived at the Atomium, which is right behind me over here. But more interestingly, we have this monument to Adolf Max. Adolf Max was a huge figure during the First World War in Brussels and Belgium. Basically, the Belgian resistance, he wouldn't surrender to the Germans, and effectively he was arrested by the Germans in 1914, and he's much celebrated here. Eventually he died in 1939, the start of the Second World War, but it's believed he died of natural causes, not because of the Germans. But I love the fact that he's celebrated here, and he's obviously greatly admired by the people of the Belgium from the past, present, and hopefully the future. Onwards as we go and see this, probably one of the most famous landmarks in all of Brussels, and thank God it's actually sunny right now. We've got blue skies, so perfect to see it in all its glory. Let's go and have a wander over here, shall we? What's remarkable, this place has got dozens and dozens of coaches arriving just to visit this thing. It was built in 1958, and in theory, just like the Millennium Wheel, it was supposed to be temporary, and just like the Crystal Palace exhibition in the 19th century. What's going on here? Camera's not wanting to grasp hold of me, but just like that exhibition, it was supposed to be temporary. Now, a lot of people say, oh, this is a symbol of Brussels. I don't understand why such a ghastly building, or what would you like to call it, object should be considered a symbol of Brussels. I don't think it is the boy that's pissing. I think it's the beauty of the cathedrals, the beauty of the cobbled streets that are slowly being demolished because people love modernism. This is 1958 modernism at its finest, or in my mind, at its worst. Now, if it was something useful, like in the film Contact with Jodie Foster, where you could leap from one universe to another, then it might be useful. But what it is on the outskirts of Brussels, to the north of Brussels, is, well, I think useful for a viewing platform, and that might just be it. But why? Why do we celebrate ghastly things like this? But it's loved by tourists who come to visit Brussels, they get their picture. But do they really question, is it really something we should be celebrating? So this object I stand under, it's supposed to represent the atom crystals, is an iron crystal, apparently magnified 165 billion times. It consists of 9 interconnected spheres. There you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was designed by the Belgian engineer, André Waterkan. The entire structure is 102 meters, so right up to the very top it's 102 meters. Let's go to the top, shall we? This gives you a little idea of what the expo in 1958 looked like. You see the Belgians with their cable cars. There's no cable cars here. But it looks like a really quite idyllic time. Brussels was certainly a very different place back in 1958. And the strange object that we see over there is called the Aric Levy. And according to this, it's basically the rock growth. It represents the evolution of the absent nature, the ongoing projects of the impossible assumption from a biological point of view for planting a rock, a mineral, a vegetable seed. We observe, we witness the germinating process. But there it is over there. Anyway, let's go in. See how much we've got to pay to get into this place. Oh my word. So I've just got my ticket, just come inside, 16 euros to get in. I've just come up the first escalator and I'm into the first pod, that is the Atomium. So now there's like a sort of 1950s sort of display of how this amazing bit of architectural wonder came to be. We can see the designs sort of all over the place. I think there are some people who are super fans of this. At the end of the day, if you can build something, why not? It's a strange one, this. Am I just really overly cynical? Or am I not the only one that thinks this is a very overrated place? Let's see. Let's see if I'm surprised. I remember coming here as a kid. It was underwhelming then, so I can't imagine I'm going to be overwhelmed here.
Okay, maybe I am a little bit cynical because eventually I do actually come around to this in the end, so watch me change perspective on this as the footage goes on. A little bit of background. Expo 58 was the big reset. 41 countries, 45 million visitors, at the time a showcase of progress in the atomic age. This wasn't just eye candy, it symbolized harnessing nuclear science for peace, not bombs. You gotta realize Belgium's uranium from the Congo had fueled the world's first atomic weapons. Here they flipped the script, atoms for energy, for medicine, for a brighter tomorrow. Structurally, it's 9 spheres, 18 meters across each, linked by 20 tubes. Some were holding the longest escalator in Europe at the time, and an elevator that was the fastest in the world back in 1958.
So what was the Expo in 1958? Well, it was an opportunity for countries from around the world to basically display their prominence, basically show off. As you can see here, we've got different countries from around the world, from Norway to Monaco to Egypt. They're all here. It was where them touring the world, or coming to Belgium and just basically saying, look at us, invest with us, in the same way that countries still do today.
6 spheres are open today. The bottom one, a museum on the Expo 58. Up top, it's the highest sphere, gives you the 360-degree panorama of Brussels, plus a restaurant serving, well, I have to say, some reasonably decent Belgian food.
So all these little escalators link the different parts of this Atomium. Now we're going into one of the tubes of the Atomium. So when you look outside, you get into a tube. It is very kitsch. It's very kitsch, and that's, for some people, that's a real winning combination. It reminds you of those old 1950s movies. It gives you an impression of how maybe your grandfather and grandmother lived back in the day, or at least how they dressed. I think this has had a little bit of an upgrade since the years and years back of the 1980s when I first glanced upon the Atomium. It would be quite good to have a bit of a rave in this section of it. I have to say, this would make an amazing nightclub. This is a lot of fun. This is Hope Cops playing in the centre, and a bit of Richie Horton at the top, and you could certainly have a good time in here.
The middle spheres are forever changing, so what I saw might not be here when you visit, but I have to say I did enjoy the exhibits that were on while I was visiting. And truly, this was supposed to be temporary, 6 months only, then demolition, like most Expo relics, but Belgians took one look at it and said, no, it's staying, sparking annual delays in the teardown plans for decades, much similar to what Paris did with the Eiffel Tower in 1889. Critics like myself at the launch back in '58 called it a disgrace, too futuristic, too brash for sedate Brussels, yet it drew crowds and it dwarfed the rest of the fair.
This is certainly better, isn't it? It's much better. Just to note, not every stairwell is an escalator, so if you can't walk that well, you're going to have to take the stairs. And obviously, make sure you bring your ability to walk. Otherwise you're not getting up to the top of Atomium. So in theory we're right at the top now, but there's a viewing platform just above us. The thing is, the elevator shaft to the top isn't working. You've got to go all the way down and then it will take you all the way back up. Not letting people on here. The alternative would be to go up these stairs, you get to the viewing platform. You can't open it, it's blocked off. But very pleasant LED, plasma, whatever you call these, it's really quite cool. As you can see, they're trying to make something of every sphere on this thing. So right now this sphere will open later. They seem to be trying to improve this. My cynicism from the outside has been much improved coming in the inside from seeing these art installations, which I have to say are much better than what they were of the past.
Fast forward to the 2000s and the thing was rusting, leaking, and I hate to say it was a shadow of its former self after 40 years of neglect. Then, between 2004 and 2006, it had a €26 million renovation, funded mostly by the Belgian government. They stripped it down to the aluminium frame, replaced every bolt, and reopened in 2006 under then Prince Philip. Oh, and here's a strange one. If you'd been trying to take photos of it up until 2016, that could have landed you in hot water. SBAM, the Belgian copyright enforcers, claimed the design was protected, fining folks left, right and centre. Thankfully, public outcry flipped that into the freedom of panorama law, letting you share away, hence I can even make this video, but I would say come get me if you're trying to get me on copyright, because I am all about sharing far and wide. If you're so inclined, you might even spend your money on like the mini Europe, which was down here. This was designed originally in the 1958 Expo, so it's kind of like a miniature version of Europe. And then just off there in the distance, that's the planetarium, but it looks like a nipple, I think, 100% a nipple. The round building over here is the American building. Right next to it, the tower is the Japanese tower, and then behind it is obviously the Chinese building. It's nice that it's still standing. You could get a little bit tired of walking around the Atomium, so you might want to just run upstairs, have a beer, or have some food as well. No, cheers. Obviously, like any standard tourist attraction, you exit by the gift shop, and if you want to pick up your Smurf memorabilia, Smurfs being from Belgium, or you want your Atomium thing to go on the mantelpiece, you can. You can even get your Atomium thing. You know what, I went with super low expectations, and when you go with super low expectations, you're always pleasantly surprised, and I was pleasantly surprised. A decent Delta IPA made the trip worthwhile. I like this sort of techno artist installation, it was fun. Today this place pulls in over 600,000 visitors a year, and when you think of Brussels, you think of this place. It is their Eiffel Tower in a way. For locals, I don't know, I guess it's a reminder of grey winters. They built something eternal out of the temporary. And that's kind of the Belgian spirit, quiet engineering that outlasts empires. So just as I walk away from the Atomium, I note there's a big Albanian festival happening on the grass. Albanians have become quite prominent in pretty much all of Europe. Some of them bringing their good qualities, some of them not bringing some of the greatest qualities. The biggest drug runners, biggest drug gangs in all of Europe right now are the Albanians. However, don't tarnish all of them. Some of them are very good people as well. So it seems the Brussels mayor is embracing the Albanian community. The way to get back into the centre is to take one of the many bits of public transport. It takes a bit of a longer time than the Uber. It's obviously a lot cheaper. You can just tap in, tap out, just use a contactless. Get to the other end of the station, just tap out. Simple, just like London, just like most cities around the world these days. So just had to change trains to get to the place that we're heading. Hopefully, be really relaxed. I'm hoping the gentrification has kicked in. And it's not how I remember images and videos.
Police in Belgium have arrested several people linked to the attacks.
Belgium remains on high alert.
What is it about Belgium that makes it a breeding ground, so to speak, for jihadis?
Some of you might be here because of my video on the fare dodging in London. Well, here is no exception to the rule. They do exactly the same. Just saw it, just witnessed as they came in right behind the person that was in front of me, pushing through the barrier. Same exact culture, lawlessness. I'm not going to wait for the next train just to prove it, but it happens here. Straight away you suddenly realise you're not in Brussels anymore. You are effectively colonised Brussels. This is just to the west of the centre. We're walking towards what is now the epicentre of what has been known as the terrorist breeding ground for many, many years. This is where the Bataclan attackers were allowed to hide out for many months. They were protected by the community. This is where the associations with the Brussels bombing took place. And this is where minor terrorist attacks have happened since then.
Belgian police have raided the infamous Molenbeek district in Brussels, known as a hotbed of Islamic extremism.
Molenbeek was linked to the Brussels Jewish Museum shooting, this summer's attack on a French train, the Charlie Hebdo shootings, and recent terror in Paris.
Why is this such a hotbed for recruitment? A hotbed for radicalism and jihadism and extremism?
being considered a breeding ground of terrorism.
The police will not even enter it.
It's one of these Muslim no-go ghettos.
This is the notorious Molenbeek suburb of Brussels. This region has produced one of the highest concentrations of Islamic jihadists.
It had been a while since I'd set foot in Molenbeek. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Brussels, as you've seen, is a charming mix of grand squares and chocolate shops. But just a short walk away and you'll see how close we are to the centre very soon. Things feel, let's say, different. Molenbeek St. John has history that goes way back, and today it's one of those places that's become infamous for all the wrong reasons. I wanted to wander through it myself to see beyond the headlines. Is it really the hotbed it's made out to be? And can I really gauge that from a brief walk? Probably not, but I can reflect. Molenbeek started as a quiet rural village back in the Middle Ages with a little church dedicated to St. John the Baptist. But fast forward to the 19th century and it exploded into the industrial powerhouse. It was nicknamed Little Manchester because of all the factories, mills and the breweries lining the canal. It was even the starting point for the first passenger train on continental Europe in 1835. Proper working class hub full of energy and grit. This was where you'd find the true Belgian man. But after the Second World War, where we lost some of the finest men Europe has ever seen, deindustrialization hit this place hard. Jobs vanished and the economy tanked. In the 1950s and 60s, Belgium experienced a wave of foreign migrants, mostly from Morocco and Turkey. It is said they were here to fill labour gaps. Some might argue that wasn't the case. Some did, some didn't. Many settled right here in Molenbeek. Today, with over 100,000 people crammed into a small area, over 70% have a migration background, largely Moroccan in origin. Now, if you spend much time here, you'll hear more Arabic than French or Dutch. There are Turkish shops, African markets, Romani communities. It's pretty diverse on paper. But here's where it gets complicated. Rather than a melting pot, it often feels more like parallel worlds. High unemployment, especially amongst the youth. Poverty, overcrowded housing, and yes, it has a very strong Islamic presence. On the last count, there are over 24 mosques in this one area alone. The most notorious, probably the big Al-Kahil Mosque, and many community hubs with schools and madrasas. Many have been linked to very conservative influences, and many have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, a banned organisation in most parts of the Middle East and Africa. And that's why Molenbeek has earned its grim reputation. In the 2010s, it became known as the base for jihadists. Several of the attackers in the 2015 Paris bombing and the 2016 Brussels attacks lived here or had deep roots to this area. People like Salah Abdeslam, hidden right under everyone's noses. Petty crime, radical networks, young men who headed to Syria when ISIS were coming of age. Of course it wasn't the whole community, far from it. A minority, yes, but a large minority, and certainly enough to put Molenbeek on the map as Europe's jihadist capital. Many have argued this shows where unchecked multiculturalism can lead. It's not a vibrant utopia, but it becomes an isolated enclave where integration has clearly stalled. Progressive policies focus on tolerance and diversity, but this has always been at the expense of addressing real issues like poor policing, unemployment, or radical preaching. How can it be multicultural if there are no Belgian people here? It's not truly multicultural if communities live side by side without mixing. More like an Islamic majority area in the heart of Europe with its own norms and challenges. Sadly, despite best efforts, community programs of revitalisation along the canal, even bids for cultural projects, I'll wager this will remain a vulnerable spot for years to come. Blind optimism from some liberals ignores the realities on the ground. Poverty breeds resentment, isolation breeds extremism. Molenbeek's story is a cautionary one for Europe, but it's one that Europe fails to listen to. Of course, it's not all doom. There are vibrant markets, and of course there will be friendly faces, real community spirit. But it does make you wonder, why do European cities do this to themselves? When you push the Belgian people out and replace them with others, all you're creating are separate colonies and dangerous places as well. And this square here is the Place Communale. Cobblestones and, in theory, sometimes picturesque. But this is where Salah Abdeslam grew up and probably hid out just after the Bataclan attacks. This square is where his family home was. He was the logistics man behind the Paris attacks. He was the one who drove the Bataclan killers to their target and somehow slipped back here, and he evaded capture for months after the carnage, most likely sheltered right in this tight-knit community that, despite all the searches and warnings, didn't turn him in. It really brings home how deeply embedded these networks can be and how different they are.
I mean, it's weird, because at the end of the day, does this feel like Belgium to you? Does it feel like Europe or Europa? Nothing about this other than the sort of remnants of the old buildings that we have over here. It feels like Europe, you know? It feels like there's been a complete colonization of this part of Brussels. And as you saw, it just goes on and on. Opportunity to buy saris, opportunity to buy Middle Eastern food, Moroccan food. What a mess. This is what multiculturalism is, effectively. Total divide in society. You have one side, other side. Colonization, miniature ghettos, miniature countries inside cities. People tend not to mix when it's like this. You know, as a gringo, a white man, it feels kind of uncomfortable, you know? I remember when I was in Paris and I was filming in a neighborhood that didn't feel very French, you know? Lots of comments. I kept the camera down this time just simply because, is it worth the hassle? I don't think it's worth the hassle. We're going to head over the river away from Molenbeek, but I'm just glad that you guys could witness what an area can become if you allow your leaders to basically bend you over backwards and take away your heritage. There has been an attempt at gentrifying this area in the last 8 years. You've had things from dance companies to artists moving into the area simply because it's a cheap place to live in comparison to the rest of Brussels. But at what cost? At what cost does an artist risk their dignity, risk their life sometimes? Because this crime rate in this area after dark is through the charts. People are stabbed, people are shot. But, you know, the price you pay for open doors. At least you've got a nice building out of it. As we move away from Molenbeek, we suddenly change. The whole environment changes. You have the graffiti in the underpass. A lot of graffiti. Brussels is behind me, is what you would consider to be the centre. The Canal really divides the two. It's a real division. You would compare house prices, the price would be significantly different. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of euros in difference compared to living on this side or living on that side. The Canal can divide that much. Immediately it feels different. Well, we've lost the commercialness of it in terms of there's no fruit and veg sellers, sari sellers, but immediately, suddenly, you can see people who are European Belgians, I should probably say, to appease the progressive left. But over here we have Ferris wheel, the Christmas market over here, everything that clearly isn't related to that Molenbeek area, and parts of this culture will be lost if we were to allow that to fully happen to Brussels. But look at this strange contraption. We've got over here, look at this, some sort of windmill. That is strange. The Bronx Theatre. Interesting little area. Go check it out. It's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. The fountain and the Christmas market are closed. Right now I'm standing in effectively what is the fountain of the Asmatch obelisk fountain. Here we have gorgons surrounded this beautiful obelisk. And what video of mine would not be complete with having an obelisk in its video? Right at the top of the obelisk, if you can see it from, let me just pan up there, is a statue of St. Michael. It's a really, really beautiful obelisk, but it's weird to think that right now I'm standing in the middle of the fountain. So if you were to come here during this summer, when there was no Christmas market about to be opened up, Barber ou Papa Dino is going to be here probably in a week or less than a few days. This would be the fountain and water would be coming out of here. Give a high five to the crocodile. It's quite impressive, and each corner of this fountain is here. You can see it's a really, really magnificent, beautiful obelisk. Let me just pan round. Okay.
from Brussels Beer Project.
Basically, Brussels is really about the food and the beer. And if you're not adverse to having, fun food such as mussels, such as waffles, and good food as well, so like steaks and food that's very similar to what you would find in France, you're going to have a good time, and especially going to have a good time if you're into your beer. This one's a seasonal beer. It's made just for the season, so it's just literally been made in October, November time. And I have to say, I've been impressed with all of the beers. This beer, phenomenally good, as is this beer. Fruity beer, also good. They're all good. Basically, you can spend a bit of time just getting to know Brussels through its beer. And just don't get too drunk, that's all I'll say. Only negative about exploring Brussels on a Sunday, obviously a lot of places are going to be closed. However, there are a selection of really decent restaurants to basically choose from in the evenings. But what were more impressive is the Church of St. Catherine. I've got something in my eye.
What about the kitchen?
It's a bit of a disco parade. I like disco balls. I couldn't go an evening without sticking my head into another beautiful church. And I apologise if churches become too much, but I think they're incredibly important. They represent what Europe is. They represent European culture. And I think it's very important, no matter what denomination you are, that you take a moment to reflect in these sort of places. This is Église St. Catherine Segmont, and it sits just off Place St. Catherine Square. And what a magical place this is. Just have a look at the beauty inside, these soaring columns, the soft light filtering through the windows, that sense of space and quiet amid the city chaos outside. Despite the late evening, it's still surprisingly bright and airy for a Gothic-inspired place, I think. Almost Victorian in feel, with those slender pillars reaching up like they're holding secrets from centuries past. This beautiful Catholic church is dedicated to St. Catherine of Alexandria, the clever martyr with her wheel and sword. But who was she exactly? Well, I think it's important to remind people of her story because it's less and less told these days. She was one of these early Christian legends from the 4th century, a young princess from Alexandria in Egypt, beautiful and brilliantly clever. She converted after a vision of the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus, who mystically married her with a ring. Bold as could be, she debated with Roman Emperor Maxentius' philosophers, out-arguing 50 of them until they converted too. He, in fact, tried to break her on a spiked wheel, but it miraculously shattered. That's where the Catherine wheel fireworks come from. In the end, she was beheaded with a sword, and it's said that milk flowed from her instead of blood, a sign of purity. She's the patron of wisdom, students, and even fireworks now. The building itself was built in the 19th century. The original chapel, though, on this site comes from the 1200s, but over the centuries it was wrecked by floods and eventually rebuilt. There's a 14th century black Madonna in this church, and legend says it floated back after being tossed into the river. The place was nearly demolished twice, once for a car park and a market hall, but thankfully saved. Standing here, you wonder how a church on a dried up dock became this peaceful an anchor. Brussels' layers, histories, miracles, resilience. This spot has it all, I think, and what a magical place. Has to be said, another beautiful church, and right behind us we have the original bell tower of the original church still standing. Now, you don't often see bell towers in Western Europe standing freely. You see them a lot in Eastern Europe. You remember from my videos in Ukraine where you see the church and then the bell towers to the side, and they're still being used. You have these beautiful towers that ring out, call to prayer, call to sermon. But here it's sort of just left. Don't know if it's still working, but it's certainly beautiful. Maybe have some fries, have some food or something. There's this place called Mer du Nord, which basically sells fried cod, fried fish, clams, and prawns. But the problem is, it's pretty long. Look at this queue. So, decided to brave the queue. It took about 5 minutes. I'm not a fan of queuing, but we braved the queue. Went for the fish soup, soup de poisson, scampi, and the fried cod, plus the local Pils beer with the vino. This seems to be a bit of a local affair. Everyone around here seems to be Belgian, so I'm excited. Wow. Nice, eh? So it got a bit cold, so I put my hat back on. So inconsistencies in the filming, but phenomenally good. This is the soup, fish soup with put cheese on top. Amazing, really amazing. Look at that. This the fried cod. Do they do fish and chips better than the English? I'm sure. It's so good. I hate to say it, but that's probably better than 9 out of 10 fish and chip places in England. It's that good. Wow. It's really good. And then calamari. Calamari, this one, scampi. Look at that. Oh. Oh yeah, that's good. I'm happy. It's happy, so thank you. Because of the cheese and the breads that I've added to the soup, it tastes like a combination. If you were to mix French onion soup with fish soup, you get this magnificent concoction. It's phenomenal. Really, really good. Superb. Well, as the sun sets and I feel like I've got myself a good feed, it's only right to explore a little bit more, see what else we can see. Seeing positives and the negatives, but I'm sure there'll be more positives because I'm a big fan of Brussels. Wow. So we're just walking the beautiful streets. The sun has set, the sky is beautiful, but we're going to get to another tourist spot. And this tourist spot was put here in the late 90s to attract tourists. And you're going to be blown away by how good this is, or not. This is the dog pissing on a corner. This is what that is. Now think about this. We've got the boy pissing. I get the boy pissing, it's historically significant. But this one is a dog pissing. Someone's put the guide dog thing on it. Look at this. Hang on, we can walk the dog, but he's taking a piss. Hang on. This camera is terrible in terms of trying to focus it. But I just generally think that what's next? So we're going to have... Hang on, let me try and focus myself. What's next? So we're going to have Brussels, a cat vomiting a hairball. Is that the route we're going down? The 90s was a great decade. I'm not sure this really exhibits the greatness of the decade, but it's a shame.
I think they shouldn't put that.
Does it make it worse or better?
But I prefer without. I never saw it before.
Why it's not peeing? I thought the whole concept was about peeing dog.
It is peeing.
Well, compared to peeing boy, it is not.
There is no penis, you mean?
No, I mean, the statue, Moneki P, he's actually peeing, so there's the water, and there's no water.
No, I think it's...
I never think about it. But I like it because it's so ridiculous.
Are you a local?
Yes.
So you're as a local you like it?
It's very Brussels spirit. This is so Belgian.
Yeah, I get the boy peeing. That's charming. This is slightly below the belt, not charming. And it's like, what's next? Is a cat gonna be vomiting? What's next?
But the next, it was you talk about mannequin piece.
Yeah.
As a Brussels woman, citizen, I already was not so agree with Jeanne Kipitz. because you have the girl, and it was a polemic. Nobody likes, because it was something else.
Yes.
It was rude, people think it's not beauty to see little girls pissing. And I think it's in the same spirit they make it. So you're right, this is nothing to do with mannequin piss.
No.
This is another spirit. This is more touristic.
Yeah. I appreciate you commenting. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day. So I'm sat inside this old marketplace. Halles Saint-Géry is what it's called. But right behind me, you'll see the obelisk. And you know from all my videos of all the references to the obelisk, those that control the world leave their mark. Well, this obelisk was built in the 18th century, I think sometime around about 1767. But this market was built in 1888. So when they knocked down this area to build the beautiful market that we now sit in, they got rid of the fountain that the obelisk sat in, but they kept the obelisk. Why did they keep the obelisk? Well, probably those connected to the obelisk were connected to the market. Freemasons have always been connected to free markets. But it's a beautiful market, now predominantly used as a bar, which is where I got the beer from, but also predominantly used as an exhibition centre. Nice little space, I think. You can buy some flowers from Azerbaijan at the top, from flowers of Baku is advertised up there, but it's a nice little place. Well, that was my 2 days in Brussels. I hope you appreciated it. I'm going to go back on the Eurostar. Best thing about getting Eurostar from London is you can get here sometimes £29 single, so it's a real bargain. Look out for those offers. If you want to check out my website on the best way to get to places like Brussels, Paris, or other places in Europe, do check out thewanderingenglishman.com. But it's been a pleasure having you here. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until next time, keep progressing and enjoy your travels.